Dan, you have any other questions other than just getting going?
Yeah. Will we cut off at an hour? Because I'm willing to stay to answer questions if people like, but I want to keep an eye on the time if it's going to
Absolutely.
suddenly go blank.
That's fine. No, we don't have a time limit, but if you have a
Okay.
time limit, we can.
I do not.
Okay, cool.
Okay.
So we'll work to that, and then I have a pool time, and I got to get my tacos going here in about an hour, so I got a hard stop.
Sure. Okay. All right. Sounds good.
All right, so have
Sounds
at
good.
it. Audiobooks. Thank you
Okay.
so much.
All right. Hi, everybody. I'm glad you came. This is too much for just one talk, I believe. So this first one is just kind of a general overview. In my slides, I have links to specific resources that you can look at. And then for part two, we'll be talking quite a bit more specifics. And then if there's an interest later, I also have one on how to do an audio booth that kind of chronicles the steps that we took. So this first one, I have a disclosure, which is I am already an audiobook person. I have drunk the Kool-Aid, or rather the Greek beer in this case. So I am not a completely unbiased person. And so one might want to view my topic in terms of that. That said, there's some really good reasons that a person should consider an audiobook. The truth is, it's content you already have. You've done the hard work to make your story. And so it does not take that much more to get it out there in this completely different format for people. It is also, because of the barriers to entry, something that will help even the odds. And that's a big deal for us little guys. As an example, my lead magnet, which I haven't sold a copy of for a little bit, my lead magnet is number 300,000-ish in the Audible store right now. That's without having sold anything. And the ebook of that same work is number almost 900,000. So that just goes to show you that even sitting there doing nothing, your audiobook is going to be more visible. And this is without any advertising for my audiobooks whatsoever. So that is kind of a big appealing thing to me. One other thing is that the audiobook readers, or the audiobook listeners rather, are readers, but not all of them. And so it's a way to snag some ears that might not otherwise be achievable. It also can help with the writing, and I have found that as I've done the narration, such things as how to format texts in my writing, such things as far as how to clearly make it apparent who's speaking. If you have a tag after the chunk of speech, in writing, you're talking just a microsecond if you just read the book. But in an audiobook, you may have 8 seconds go by before it's clear who is that speaker. And so it's been helpful to me to try to make the voices really distinct and to make deliberate choices in that regards. It's also a good way to go wide, and the library angle we'll talk more about. That's kind of a bigger deal than I had thought. There are some folks for whom just the existence of an audiobook is a mark of confidence. It separates the sheep from the goats to some readers. They think, wow, this must be legit. This author believes in her stuff enough to go ahead and put that book out. And statistically, they say that audiobooks are much more likely to be reviewed than the dismal review rate that one gets from an ebook. I've not seen that yet, but being new at this, my N is so small that I don't think I can draw any truly good conclusions as far as that goes. As far as the reach of audiobooks, they are here to stay. The revenue has ramped up for audiobooks dramatically in last year rather. More audiobooks were sold revenue-wise than ebooks, and by a fair chunk if you look at the statistics here. The 60,000 new audiobooks released in 19, which was the last year they had stats on it that I could find, is much smaller than the 4 million and physical books. So it's a way to stand out if you're not awash in that huge ocean. And a lot of the audiobook listeners are young. And so for those of us who want to have any kind of staying power, it's a way to harness those younger listeners without maybe having to go on TikTok and some of the other things to do that. Right now, most audiobook listeners, at least pre-pandemic, were in vehicles, people taking the trains to work or driving. But now with the Alexa type of smart devices in people's homes, people are starting to listen to audiobooks more while they do their yoga, while they vacuum, while they cook. And that's probably going to continue as well. And the pandemic really shot up the numbers. There are a lot of people who were at home, nothing else to do, went ahead and tried it and found they liked it because it was multitasking. So this is one reason that someone might choose to jump into audiobooks for their work. The question of computer narration comes up, and there are people who worry about that. That it might cause a race to the bottom, as we've seen in ebooks, where readers expect the book should be free or 99 cents. And if computers can just read a book, then also this will become devalued. But right now, computer reads are prohibited by the big platforms. They want that human touch. They want to protect the revenue too. I do believe that AI produced or the computer generated audiobooks will become the norm in things that that it's purely factual content like textbooks. And I think that's a good thing. There are a few authors or narrators rather, who are trying to trademark their voice so that they can get in on that. But this isn't a thing that I worry about, that somehow there'll be a flood of competition in fiction for this. The second exhibit is a quote from our ex-president. That's the same sentence, but yet the emphasis on the different words completely changes the meaning. And this is the kind of nuance that a narrator can get across and a computer will not be able to. So I don't think AI is a thing to fear, at least not for the foreseeable future. So audiobooks work better statistically with certain kinds of work than others. And novels are a great choice, as well as self-help, historical fiction, things that are lyrical like poetry, and kids' books too if they're longer. Really short kids' books, the kind that might be just 15 pages, graphics heavy works, cookbooks, quotation books, certain things don't sell as well, and the cost to production are still significant. So those might not be a good choice for people who have audiobooks. An audiobook, I'm a fan of having one's work in audio, but it's not alone going to be enough to resurrect a crummy book or jack up sales dramatically. And if you're short on time and cash both, doing it yourself is not a good thing, and you can't afford to have a narrator. But with those caveats, I'm very much a fan of it. So why don't you have an audiobook now? It's because it's expensive, it's scary and new, it's hard to know where to start. Authors are being nickel and dimed right and left for things we need to spend our money on. And part of the reason for this talk here is to try to um, uh, address some of these to give you guys a starter point or something to think about to see whether this is for you. So first we'll talk about getting someone else to do it. And we had a really good talk not that long ago from a producer who came, um, and it sounded pretty good and streamlined the way that that company did it. Her quote was $350 per finished hour, but you can get it for as little as $250 on some um, from some narrators. This is the least amount of direct time as far as the author dinking with his or her words. And one can hire a narrator either outright, which gives you the most control and the most royalties, or there are various kinds of royalty splits. And you can get narrators on the platforms that do the audiobooks or other sites, or one could even reach out to audiobook narrators themselves to get the work done. Time, though, is a tricky thing because even if the author wants to hire it out, they still have to spend time to screen potential narrators, set up their audition script and get those bids, go through the contracts, wait for the author to read the book and get back the initial project and listen to it, and then work with the author to hash out any errors. And that might be trickier than one thinks because time is money to them. And the lady who did the talk for us a few weeks ago pretty much said that they're not going to fix errors unless it changes the meaning. And so for people who are control freaks, getting it exactly how you want might mean doing it oneself. So the time for an author may be less farming it out, but there's still a significant built-in delay as well. So this is the appeal to doing it yourself. One can get some practice that might be useful to a shy person as far as learning how to do podcasts or speak in public. If somebody does nonfiction, then the author narrator combo is a plus. So if I did a medical how-to thing, people would want Dr. Diana Willadsen as the narrator. So it can help in that regard. I've already mentioned how it can help in fine-tuning one's work, and the price is right. And depending on the setup, it can be faster potentially than farming it out. So people don't like the sound of their own voice because their whole life they have heard their voice bounce through their own sinuses and bones. And when they hear it recorded, it comes at them through the ears like all other humans. And even the professionals go through this where they think, oh my God, it sounds so weird. Most people, the voice is not a prohibitively bad vehicle for a book. And if you spend some time listening to audiobook excerpt after audiobook excerpt, just go on Audible or Amazon, you can see there's a huge variety of prose. And so this, I think, is less of a worry. A lot of habits can be unlearned, and the setup isn't that hard either necessarily. So we're going to talk a little bit more about considerations and how to do it, but let's talk about money first. Now, this is a ridiculously small slide, and I'm sorry about that, but the link to it is in the resources, so you can look at it at leisure. This one, if you look at the top, this is for non-exclusive audiobook distribution, and I'm going to concentrate mainly on Findaway and ACX. If one has an exclusive arrangement, then the royalties are a little bit better. So instead of this 25% royalty you get through ACX, it would be 40%. So it's a little bit better if you go exclusive. If one looks at a $10 retail price, if you go non-exclusive to ACS, you will get $2.50 back. If you go non-exclusive with Findaway for ACX, you get $2 back. So you get a little less, which is not a surprise when you're talking about ACX. But you have all these other avenues, all these other 41 players that you can get money from if you go with Findaway as opposed to exclusively Audible. So the money turns out to be close to the same or a little better just on the surface. But then you factor in Audible Gate. And Audible Gate is something that broke this last fall when it became apparent that the second that a listener finished with an audiobook, they were prompted to just swap it out for another book. And the lost revenue was clawed back by Audible or ACX. They were happy to do it because they had a happy customer who keep paying their monthly fee. They did not make it clear this is what happened, and it was only when there was a computer glitch where all their refunds happened in a day that authors recognized there was a problem and got up in arms. Essentially, the return rate for some authors was over 50%, and so the advertised rate of money from ACX of 40% was essentially cut in half. And so this was a big factor for me in choosing to go wide, partly because I don't want all my eggs in the basket of a company that would do this deliberately. That bothered and concerned me, and also because I think the money is going to be better in the long run. Additional money considerations are that to front the cost up front is going to be $250 to $350 per finished hour. But the money you can get from an audiobook depends on the length of the book. So a short thing, even a short story, the money is significant. A novella like mine is here at 4 hours and 15 minutes. That's a lot more money than one would get simply from an ebook for that. And then the library market is another thing. When you sell a book to the libraries, they'll usually pay twice the going rate because they expect that they're going to loan that again and again and again. And you can either profit because they pay that inflated cost, or they do a payment per loan, in which case you kind of have a magic bakery setup where every time somebody gets your book, you get another little bit of money. Libraries.
Diane, I got a quick question. Would you
Yeah.
mind just speaking up just a little bit louder?
Okay.
There's just a few people that are I think they're listening to it on speakers and stuff. They want to hear your beautiful voice.
Yes. Is this better, guys?
That's way better. Thank you.
Okay, I'll try. I just didn't want to feel like I was yelling. So this is a good time as far as library opportunities. And the reason for that is the big publishers ticked off libraries a couple years ago when they decided that they wanted to sell books instead of give them to the libraries. And so they throttled their sales, and they would only sell 1 or 2 copies of their book to a library. That was it. their hope was that then readers who didn't want to wait 6 years to get a copy would be forced to buy the book. But it made libraries furious, and that cracked the market wide open to libraries because they just want their readers to be happy, and they don't really care who the author is as long as the book is good. And so libraries are much more willing to let independently published authors in. And even though I only get 45 cents per library loan, that's 45 cents I didn't have. But better yet, if I can suck that reader into my whole series, the value of my series at present is $11. That's the ebooks. So if someone says, wow, this is awesome, I need to read the stories, and reads them all, that's $11. And it'll even be more if I can do the audiobooks. The other thing is 45 cents a book doesn't sound like much, but if you could have that in every library in the country, even once a month, suddenly you're talking about a lot of money. So I think the library thing is perhaps a secret weapon here. As far as the money for production, the resources I have, there's a little calculator where you can feed in your word count and do the math for what it's going to cost. But my little book, which is just under 4.25 hours, would have cost $1,000 to contract, and I'm just too cheap to do it. Now, some of this depends on the value of one's time. And if you think about it, if you've got a 30-minute chunk of book, it takes 30 minutes just to narrate that. It takes an additional 30 minutes to proof listen to that. And that's if everything is perfect. If you have to tweak and redo things, you can see that it becomes very easy to spend a huge amount of time on this. And in fact, the industry standard for professionals is 6.2 hours per finished hour of audiobook. And it's going to be slower for a beginner. Now, I am very tickled actually with mine. I've had some that my worst chapter so far was 7.8 hours per finished hour. My best have been under 4. And I think this is maybe a secret weapon that an author narrator can have, because I know my story. I know what's going to happen. I know where it should be emphasized. And I think that's quite an advantage, actually. But basically, whether you should do it yourself depends on how much time you have and how much money you have. If you are somebody who can crank out a book a month and they sell well, you're probably better off just throwing the money at someone and driving on. If you spend half your day dinking around, maybe if you could pare back on some of that and spend the time doing audiobooks, you would be happy in the end. So there are other considerations besides simply buying a mic, and here's some things that one should consider if they're going to do their own audiobooks. If a person joins Draft to Digital and clicks that link to set up the audiobook, you can save the $49 setup fee you would get through Findaway since they're paired. And if you're going to do 5 or 6 audiobooks a year, that can add up into real money. You can set up Authors Direct so that you can direct readers to go to your site to sell books. It's not quite the same as selling them on a website, but it's a way to still keep more of the money that they send. You can join SoundCloud so that you can have a place to put your audio samples. You'll want to download Audacity as your recording platform. If you get your book on Kindle, that can help you twofold. One is it gives you something you can narrate from without page turning and shuffling. But the other thing is if your book is up on Kindle, you already have some ratings, and those will flow over from Amazon to Audible even before you sell your first audiobook. These files are fair size files, and so this is the kind of thing that you can run out of storage, and that's worth making sure you have that dialed in, because it's a lot of effort to do these audio things only to have them disappear or get lost. There are different things one can do for marketing. There are specific newsletters just for this, and specific groups on Facebook that you can send links to encourage listeners. I've not done any of this because I'm stupid. I just wanted to get my first one out and see how it went. But I think this could pay big dividends down the line as far as arranging for reviews, etc. People can apply for audiobook awards, and that rah-rah might make some people more likely to try a brand new narrator. And then, of course, for audiobooks, the covers need to be square, not round. So that's a small thing, but not the kind of thing that you want to run up against when you're thinking you're almost there. It does not take that much to be able to narrate an audiobook successfully space-wise. Mainly, you want to control the noise coming in. So you would really rather not have windows if you can help it. You want to control sound bouncing around, so you don't want mirrors or windows or hard vertical surfaces for floors or ceilings. You don't want outside noises if you can help it. So soundproofing and the time of day may matter for people. And then you don't want internal noises like the heater, your own stomach growling, etc. But most of these can be controlled, and so you don't have to have your own audio booth to make this work. Matt has an earlier presentation on podcasts, I think, that talks about microphones. You can refer to that, but basically there's two kinds of microphones you can get, and one is a condenser mic. I'm speaking from my ratty computer audio right now, not my nice mic. But a condenser mic is terrific, but very sensitive. A dynamic mic is a little more forgiving. Here's some different kinds. I have a Blue Yeti, which I like. A pop filter is something like this, or the foam head that sticks on over the mic that catches some of the poppy peas and noises that can intrude on audio. A mic stand or a cradle will help insulate against vibration and squeaks if you bump into your table or what have you, and that's worth getting. And then you need real headphones, not earbuds. So once you have that, you are ready, right? Dictate and you're good. Actually, that is a way to redictate your whole book. It's important to have a rational, measured start, dictate just a paragraph or two, and play with the gain, play with the distance and the settings so that you can make sure you have the sound that you want. This is when you can shake out how to learn not to do so many clicks or what have you. Get rid of your bad habits, which might be saying or weird breaths. And it's a way to make sure you can pass the ACX checks before you dictate the whole book and then find that your noise floor wasn't not good. So do as I say, not as I did, and do this step first. It'll pay dividends. So this is a tracing of the platform Audacity, which is free. And this is the waveform. This is a chapter of Helios, the introduction right here. And if you look at this, you can see this little bitty thing here and a little bitty thing here. Those are extraneous noises. One can make this bigger by grabbing this yellow line and pulling it down. And the start, stop, and record buttons are here. Here is the analyze that one would do to check to see if it'll pass ACX. Here are the effects one would do to try to take out some of the S's and do noise reduction. And then one can make the track bigger by clicking on this, or smaller by clicking on this. If one makes the track bigger, you can see all the little things that might have been hidden. And this is a squishy swallowing noise here. And these are little clicks of the tongue. And this is a breath sound. This is either, well, I say it's a clicky S. It might be that, or it might be just a tongue click or something. Anyway, this kind of stuff can creep readers out if it's prominent. And so you want to spend some time trying to clean that up, or better yet, prevent what you could. This is what's called the multi-view. And this is the spectrogram, this is the waveform that we saw. And then this is what you call the spectrogram view, this fuzzy stuff. And the white is louder. And the verticals are clicks or hard sounds like T's or D's. And on this, you can see this little thing, which you might look past with tired eyes, stands out like a sore thumb. So when I do my editing, I have both of them up, and it helps me know what to erase pretty fast. And also, this shows that there's a click somewhere in here, but if you look at the waveform, you'd never see it. But if you put the cursor here, you can embiggen this until you can see the weird waveform or spike. There are certain plugins that make it easier for Audacity. There's a thing called Punch, Copy, Paste, and RMS Normalize that will make the mastering much faster. And then there's also this program called Isotope Elements, which I found to be very helpful as well. Here's another multi-view, also of the intro of Helios. This gives you a breath sound and a few other extraneous sounds, just so you can see what it looks like. Here is a picture of the click removal tool from Isotope RX. And I got this on special. It didn't cost, I think it was like 29 bucks. It's the best money I've ever spent. On this screenshot, you can see that this clip, which is 9 minutes, I just clicked declick and it removed 567 clicks in a split second. And that is a huge amount of time saved.
Can you could you define what a click is, or is that like the popping of your lips?
Okay, a click is when mucous membranes stick together and then something comes apart. It makes a click. A loud one would be like that, and then no one would do that. But in an audiobook, just your lips coming apart, your tongue moving from one part to the other of your mouth can make these vertical little clicky noises. And sometimes they can be pretty intrusive, and they can be time consuming to get rid of. And it's really eye-opening to listen to a clip and think, damn, I didn't think I sounded like that. Actually, what's really horrifying is you can output the clicks only. I could listen to a clip of only those 560 clicks. It sounds like an alien grasshopper or something. But that's what those are.
Did you? Yeah. Did you listen to the two output files side by side, or did you listen to them and see the difference?
Yes.
You saw no, like so one of my big concerns about running filters across, a very complex audio waveform stream, like you said, 9 minutes here, is right. There could be fallouts from running that filter across all that audio. You did not see any impacts at all?
I didn't. But if you look at this, my sensitivity, is set really low. I could move it all the way up here I'd
Okay.
probably take out every click there was, but then I think I would be missing some T's and D's and some
Yeah.
inflection. But this is the way it came, and the truth is I like it and it's good enough. It doesn't remove them all, but I would rather err on the side of it not sounding too robotic, and so that's what I have done. Does that answer the question?
Yeah, yeah, perfect. And I just let me if you talk about this later, just ignore it. Where in the editing process do you do this?
Okay, some people. Okay, so when I say edit, I mean listen to how it sounds and adjust the timing between words, erase the belly growls,
Hmm.
um, and retake the flubbed words. That's what I mean by editing. Some people master first and then edit. I do the editing first, and which includes this clicks and all. Um, and then I do the mastering very last, because otherwise if I master first, I've already adjusted my room tone and all that, and then if I have to do another take for something, then I have to get similar room tone, denoise it, splice that in, and I just would rather not do that. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. And that was my next question is, yeah. So when I like on my podcast, I do mastering first and
Ah,
then I do the editing just so that I know that I'm editing final content because
ah.
I'm pushing it out, but I don't have the stringent quality standards that audiobooks have. So you prefer to do remove all the clicks, do your editing and then master at the end. Do you do a quality check on what the output from that process? Or do you advise
You mean
people
the
to do it?
final product?
Yeah, do you re-listen to the final product?
Um,
Or do you
I
just trust
have I
you
have
trust it?
up to now. I have
Okay.
up to now because I'm a compulsive person.
Okay.
And um, now Helios is going to be probably 15 hours. I'll I don't know that I'll listen to it entirely, but you end up listening to it again and again as you upload some too, to the various platforms. So I think um, I think I get enough of it to trust it.
Okay. Okay. Yeah, that was my question. The only reason why the way I do it is because I trust what I'm outputting. But okay, so that's great. Thank you.
No problem. Okay, so now this is what it looks like on the ACX site. Okay, so you put in who you are, and it will ask you. This was the very first day that I put this in, and ACX wants you to commit to a contract right away. You have to say whether you're exclusive or not before you can even upload anything. So anyway, there it is. That's what the um, interface looks like. On draft to digital, you go to your book and then you click it, and then for the first time, well, actually, if you're in the process of doing an audiobook, there's a little button down here you click. But if you're going to for the first time, you go to your book and then you go to visit my project at Findaway. Okay, and that is the link that will automatically save you that $49 per title when you go to Findaway. Okay, so it's important to do that in order. And I didn't do it at the first time, and they were nice enough to say, no, 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 no. And I ditched my first couple chapters, and started over re-uploading with that link. Because, $49 is $49. So here's what it looks like on Findaway. This is Helios, which is partly in progress. So this is blue because this is what I'm on now is the audiobook page. Here's Helios. It says the metadata is incomplete. This is for sales. This is for marketing, and that would include where it is live and distribution codes, things like that. This is the person's profile where you'd put in your tax ID, whatnot. Here's a FAQ, and here's how to sign out. Um, If you do Voices Plus, you can do Authors Direct. It's a one setup fee of $99. Actually, as we speak, it's $49, but it allows you to sell. They call it direct, but it's not exactly direct. It puts you to a landing page that they host, but they do the taxes and all that. There's actually another way to do sales that are direct that I actually may go to in the future, but that's too much for our discussion right now. If you choose non-exclusive, right now you will have, if you say, send it out to everybody but ACX, you will have 41 outfits to send your book to. So that's a huge, huge market by going wide. This is what it looks like when you upload your chapters. You can add more. This is how you would play to test listen to what you've uploaded. This is how to download a chapter you have uploaded. So it's a way actually to recover something. I mean, you shouldn't put your eggs in this basket, but if somehow your computer was struck by lightning and you didn't have any cloud storage, you could retrieve your audiobook by downloading it again. Here's how you trash something. This little conversation bubble here will have notes. So this one has a 1 in there, and what it's going to say is you uploaded a new version on this date. So on some of them, I think I discovered the click removal tool after I uploaded the first one, so that means I did that one. But anyway, this is what that looks like. Giveaway codes. If you do Voices Plus, you get 100. If you do non-exclusive, you could do 30. But you can copy and email these to your people. The codes are single use and they can be used anywhere, unlike Audible codes. And they don't expire. But but people can sit on them and not use them. So my habit is going to be like with Sierra's, no, it wasn't Sierra, it was Hope Irving's Facebook takeover. One of the things I gave away was an audiobook code, but the winner was told, yippee, here's your audiobook code, please use it within 2 weeks, because I don't want a bunch of dead codes out there that no one's ever going to use. I'll reassign them, but I'll allow a fudge factor and one more email to say, please use it or it's going to be reassigned, because I don't want to make enemies, but I don't want a bunch of dead codes out there either. If you're going to do this, it makes sense to make the expectations clear, and just like you try maybe to get a street team or a review copy club, you can get a listening club if you thank people for their reviews and encourage that. If you offer a copy and paste that says, I got a free copy, this is my review, and avoid the word for or exchange, they're less likely to have their reviews bounced out because people think that they're cheating. This is a clip from, this is what it looks like on SoundCloud. This is a clip of 1:31 of a sample from this. So this is one other source that people can listen to this and decide if it's a narrator they want to listen to read a whole book. And this you want to have hooky enough that people think, ooh, I want to read that. But you also want it to be suitable for work. And so those of us who write romance do not want this to be in the middle maybe of a torrid sex scene. Likewise, for any other kind of book, you don't want this to be something with a bunch of profanity, perhaps, or verses either. This is what the Authors Direct site looks like. This kind of mirrors my website for branding. I have not advertised this a bit yet. I don't have a single sales through this, which is not a surprise because no one knows about it, but I do think it's going to be valuable for the future. This is the marketing page on Findaway. And this was on day 3 after I'd uploaded everything. It was already live on Google Play, Binge, Scribd, Cobalt, Walmart, and Chirp, just in 3 days. So it was in that time frame, it was QA'd, blessed, uploaded, and distributed, and I'd already sold 3 copies to the library. So that was really kind of fun to see how on the ball and fast Findaway was. And ACX was still waiting QA. It took quite a bit longer. And so here's my early 3 sales at 45 cents a piece for library. So that was very exciting for me to see that it actually could happen. It proved to me that even with 0 advertising, 0 newsletter, I hadn't done anything except publish it, that there were people already borrowing and buying my books. So I think there is a market out there, and I'm really excited to think that when I start to actually push that and focus that and learn to market it, that it's going to be quite lucrative. As of now, I have sold 9 audiobooks on ACX, Audible, with no advertisement. So presumably those are people who just blunder through looking at my series and think, oh, cool. And I have sold 11 through Findaway Voices, all those other platforms. And then I've got some library stuff too. So that actually is pretty good for no advertising, I think. And certainly the money there is a lot more than the 99 cents I would get for just selling an ebook outright. So this is why I have, in fact, drunk the Kool-Aid and am a fan of this. I think this is going to be a game changer for me as I go forward. And that's why I'm hustling to try to get the rest of my books up. And every single book I'll do, including the one I'm doing with Sierra's new series, I'm going to release it in an audiobook as well. Here are some of the resources. Some are on where to buy the soundproofing if you're going to do that. Some of these are advice on production and reading tips and how to reduce noise. Some of them are things on marketing and where you can submit your book for awards, etc. Some of it is the down and dirty saga of Audible Gate, which is actually really interesting. And then last, I get a kickback if people do use my referral link to sign up for Draft 2 Digital. It doesn't cost the other person anything. So that's my my little disclaimer there for that particular link. I just figure what goes around comes around. The people who go to one of my scrib buds gets a little kickback from my Draft to Digital stuff. So anyway, that's why that is in there. So I hope this has been something for you guys to think about, but maybe you too should go out there and get some ears. What questions do you guys have?
Thank you so much for doing this. Could you maybe, in a condensed form, walk somebody through your process where, outside of your recording studio, but like you sit down to finish product, like what are maybe the high level steps that you do?
Oh, okay. Well, if it's been a while since I wrote the book, like going back to do Finders Keepers, that was my first one ever. I read through it, and that was partly, just to make sure I hadn't forgotten something tricky like an accent. I'm bad for that. I really love foreign curses and idioms and accents and stuff. But that's the kind of thing that you don't suddenly want to come up against, how you pronounce this certain Danish word. So I do it just to make sure there's nothing I need to do research-wise. And that, by the way, is another reason to do your own audiobooks. Some narrator out there is never going to be as willing to learn an accent or whatever as a person might do. Anyway, so I do a quick listen to fire me up against the story, about the story again. I brush my teeth so that my mouth is clean and not all icky. I make sure I avoid dairy, which can make some phlegmy gunk. I avoid dairy right beforehand, and I make sure I've eaten about an hour and a half before so that my stomach doesn't rumble, and away I go. So then I set up my mic, I test it, and I start to read, to narrate. I pretend that I'm telling a story to someone about 10 feet away. And that is the image that helps me remember that it's a little bit of a performance, and um, has me keep my volume uh, consistent and loud enough. I don't worry about a lot of breaths. I figure I can de-emphasize the breaths if they're too much, but I don't want to be concentrating so much on barely breathing that that it impedes the flow. So anyway, and if I go until I need to stretch or take a break, or until I klutz up, and that's usually the limiting factor there. And so if I make a mistake, I stop and I immediately re-narrate it right then, because that is so much faster, even if it takes 5 takes for some of these funny terms. It's much faster to do that than to find out after the fact, then go back out to the audio booth and so on. So I do all that to get through the section, and I'm a chapter at a time kind of person. So I just kind of do one chapter at least, and some of those are very short, maybe 4 minutes, and some are close to 30 minutes. It just depends. Um, I I have the luxury of not having to push myself, but I think I could probably I could probably narrate for 3 hours a day if I had to, but as it is, I try to do it for 90 minutes or so. I think that's a sweet spot to get my voice warmed up. So then I have the raw stuff, and I then leave my audio booth and come kick back with a drink. And then I listen to it, and at that point I have the 2 waveforms up, and I have the Kindle right there, and I can stop and start and start to edit right then, to de-emphasize a breath if I need to, or whatever. Actually, first I run it through the click removal, and then I start to do the breaths and all that, adjust the spacing. Once I'm happy with how it sounds and I don't have to do any new takes, then I adjust. Then I do the RMS check and sound removal and all that mastering stuff, and then I make sure that I have the lead in and the lead out the right length. Both of these platforms are really really persnickety with the time you're supposed to have. They don't want the book stuffed with a bunch of dead air. And so I make sure that I have that right. And once I have that good, I may do another listen if I have to vacuum or weed or something like that. That's an easy thing to do. Otherwise, then I just open up these platforms and I upload. And that was what I thought would be the most scary, but it's not. You just click upload chapter, and then you can drag to reorder the chapters, or you can retitle the chapters. But actually sticking in the completed file onto the platform is the easiest part of all of it. Then once everything is done, I listen to the start and end of each file to make sure I have them in the right order, and kind of double check everything, go back and double check my metadata and my keywords and all that. And then when it's all done, then I hit publish.
Perfect. Tony wants to hire you. So there's some money selling shovels in the gold rush. Uh, Anybody have any other questions? Are they sufficiently scared away from audiobooks? Your next talk is about building your studio.
No, my
Okay.
next talk. Sorry, my earpiece just fell. My next talk is a little bit more specifics about how to. And then I do have another one I could do if you guys want about a studio. Although one tip I heard for people who don't want to do a studio is just to buy a patio umbrella and throw a big quilt or two over the top to make a little cave. And I thought that was really smart. You could do that in the middle of a coliseum and have a reasonable little booth for almost nothing.
When you built your own studio.
Yes.
Maybe we'll talk about that in the next one. We've already gone an hour. Does anybody have any additional questions, or we can go back into the heat and you can play in the your pools and sprinklers and stuff? All right. Thank you, Diana. I think we'll see you in 2 weeks for the next one. I'll go ahead and stop the recording.